Jerome de Silva, thank you very much for coming to my Atharamadiyawa channel in the series I'm doing about the resistance. And one thing, Jerome, I noticed here, and this is why I'm especially glad to have you, because you've been in English theatre for so long. You would have, like me, seen this difference. I'm so glad to have seen English theatre get involved very much in Sri Lankan politics at the moment, in the sense of the Gulf-face protest, because I saw how you and your team and your troupe were also protesting in artistic ways at the Gulf-face protest. Now, the question I want to ask you, Jerome, is this. Given your seniority, you would be perhaps one of the best to answer this. Have we seen a change, a historical difference in the way English theatre is engaging in Sri Lankan politics now? Has it always been this involved, or was it at one point, say during your young days, say when you started the workshop players, was it also a little bit, had it been a little bit away from the currents of the majority of Sri Lankans? What do you think, Jerome?
Well, I guess because we concentrated mainly on English theatre or Western theatre, maybe we were not that close to our real situations in this country. Maybe we were not so much involved with Sri Lanka on the whole. But actually, that is where our productions were concerned. Because as the workshop players, we actually used to go around the country, actually doing workshops and at refugee camps and things like that. And even in Jaffna, even when the war was going on, and Batiklo. And so we used to actually go around. And during the tsunami also, we used to go around and do workshops in the tsunami affected areas, in the refugee camps, also at Manik Farm and all that soon after the war was over. Right.
When was workshop players? Yeah, I'm sorry, Jerome. When was workshop players formed? Which year?
We formed the workshop players actually 30 years ago in 1992.
Right. Can you just lead up to the reasons why you did that, Jerome, very quickly?
Right. Yeah, actually, that's a very funny thing, right? Because in 1991 December, I remember helping St. Peter's College with their primary concert. And because I was a Josephian first, and then after for A-levels, I went to St. Peter's, and actually that's where I started all my theatre work and all of that. So, and singing and everything came out of the confines of singing in the bathroom, and sang actually on stage and in the choir with Father Clever Pereira, who was my mentor. So anyhow, in 1991, St. Peter's College, after years and years and years and years of many decades, they started their English Literary and Drama Society. And that night at the primary concert, where I was, actually I'd helped them and I was a guest of honor, the senior prefects who were there on duty, they said, Jay, you know, the problem is we don't meet girls. We like to meet girls. So, you know, I said, but then St. Peter's College, I mean, we have done Oliver in 1979, we did Godspell in 1980, we did Cats in 1981, and we had people like Michelle de Brogan and Indira Jonkless and girls from Alethea and Methodist and all that taking part. So what's the big deal? They said, but now things have changed, so we like to meet girls. I said, okay, you have just formed the English Literary and Drama Society. Let's do this. Let's send out letters to the principals saying that we are going to conduct a workshop, right? A drama workshop. And lo and behold, 33 students appeared on, I remember, March 7th, actually March 6th, 1992, 6th or 7th, I can't really remember. Right. And 33 students, which comprised people like Ruante de Chiguera from Methodist College, people from bishops, from Ladies College, from St. Peter's, naturally, because they were the main organizers of it, St. Joseph's College, St. Thomas's, all the schools, Anula Vidyalaya, Visaka, everybody, Museus College, 33 students. And now it was a whim for boys to meet girls. Then we suddenly realized with Ruanti and all that coming, and they write their own plays and all that sort of thing, that it became fairly serious. And they were not thinking in terms of boys and girls and boys and all that, but they became serious in theatre, in drama. And that's how the whole workshop began. And after about 2 months, when I realized, okay, this is getting somewhere, I said, let's give ourselves a name. Okay, and they said, oh, yes, we should give ourselves a name, and all creative people like Jehan Aloysius and Ruatini Chikera and all these people. So, and Surendra S. Vijayaratne and all that, who was a mere boy of 13 at that time, who's now my artistic director and music director. And that's, and then I waited for a fortnight, nothing happened. And I said, I came up with a name. I said, since we're a workshop and since we're players and actors, let's call ourselves the workshop players. And they all said, that is so, it is like generic and it's like, and all kind of. So I said, okay. Until you give us a better name, we come up with a better name, we'll just stick to this name for I mean, because I didn't give this whole thing 6 months about boys meeting girls and having this and getting serious about drama and all that. And I'm still waiting after 30 years for another name and a different logo and all of that.
And Jerome, it's fascinating because the names you used are now themselves very well known and themselves having their workshop. And
Absolutely.
so that is why you're called the godfather of English theatre by many, I
guess
know.
so.
Jerome, what was your training that made you be such an effective director? I'm going even further back now.
Actually, Madhubhashini, if you know my family, I guess you know my family. And I'm the youngest in that family of 6, and I had my mom and dad. And my dad passed away when I was just 5 years old. And my mother had to look after 6 children, right? You know, most of them. And on a small pension. And I had got into St. Joseph's College, flying colors at the entrance examination. And I was always interested in singing and dancing and acting and all that. In fact, my second sister, Clementine, she used to dress me up in little, because I love to be a Canadian dancer. I love to be. And my father, I used to wait for Vesak, and I used to get him to take me to where they make all these hats and all those things. And I used to buy this Canadian dancer hat. And my sister Clementine, my second sister, she used to drape me in a like a dhoti, like a thing, and there are pictures of me, and or like Julius Caesar, whatever it is, and I used to carry on, like that. But then it came to a point where I could sing and move a little and talk a little and all that, because I never went. I've still not gone through formal training in either speech or drama or singing or choreography for that matter, or dancing. So then it so happened that we couldn't really afford the costume at that time, to pay for a costume, even though I used to be chosen to take part in all kinds of things. So it just went on and on and on. And so it came to a point where it came to my O levels. And then I crossed over to St. Peter's for my A levels, because at that time the system of education was changing and there's going to be Sinhala and Tamil only. So we were the English level students. And at St. Joseph's, I did absolutely nothing, because they didn't have a choir, they didn't have drama or anything at that time. And I did nothing. And but I used to always, you see, my best friends were people who used to go to speech and drama schools and all kinds of things. So I used to listen to them reciting poems and all kinds of things. And I used to go up to the teacher, nasty person that I'm, and I used to say, I can also recite that poem. And then the teachers, eventually I used to get chosen. So I learned off them. Okay. And another thing I would always say is, see, when I was born, my mother, because of some quirk of fate and because her brothers and cousins had lit crackers in a year or something when she was young, she went quite deaf. And when I was born, it made it worse. And so I used to have to communicate with her. And so I used to speak loud because she could just hear. And I used to, that's why I'm using my hands also so much and expressions on my face, because she had to lip read most of the time what I was saying. So that's how I learned how to talk properly, to pronounce my words properly, project my voice, use my entire body. Body language and facial expression are so important for an actor. And so that is my basis actually. And then, of course, when I was about to leave school in 1970, actually, I was at St. Peter's, and one of my classmates was a Wendy Watmore pupil. And then that is Tracy's grandmother, right? And she was doing The Boyfriend in 1970, the musical The Boyfriend, for which they were going to collect money for the renovation of the Lionel Went. At that time, the Lionel Went didn't have a balcony. Okay, and they didn't have that side, there's just two side dirt roads in the same compound, you know. And so I went there, and Auntie Usha was there. She saw that I could point my toes a bit. She asked me to join her ballet school because she didn't have many boys there. And she said, I'll teach you free. Wendy Watmore took me under her wing. And so I debuted in theatre, I would say, public performances on January 10th, 1970. So this is my 53rd year in theatre in Sri Lanka.
So Jerome, you obviously came into a position to be asked as a chief guest to St. Peter's. By the time you,
Yes.
so you must have made quite an impact, even with, that's for me an inspirational story, how you were, but very quickly you must have made a name for yourself, right?
Well, I guess, see, the nicest thing about I think was, as I always say, I was in the correct place at the correct time without absolutely anything as a background. I know now my brothers and sisters, they they support me a lot, right? But at that time when I was young, and I mean, they didn't have time for me in that sense, because they were trying to get on with their lives. They were getting married, they had children and all that, and I had to look after my mother, right? So yeah, so then it went, and I started. The nicest thing is every job that I did, my professions have always been like, you know, to do with the arts. For instance, my first job, I left school while I was doing my A-levels, and I joined at that time Ceylon Broadcasting Corporation. After a few months after I joined, Sri Lanka became a republic, and we became the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And so you can imagine. And then in 1971, interesting, you might come back to this later, when I was at St. Peter's, was the insurrection, the first JVP insurrection. And we went through months and months and months of curfew and things like that. And so that helped us also to get together every now and then and practice drama. I used to go for raga practices also early morning, strangely. And then, yeah, so then after that, I would say, yeah, that is in 1971. Then 1970, The Boyfriend happened. I left school and joined as an announcer, an English service announcer, where I did everything. I did my own morning show. I appeared on the radio. At that time, we had only radio. We didn't have TV. TV came only into Sri Lanka in 1980. And so, yeah, so I did radio drama, I did radio productions. I used to do all kinds of programs there.
Radio
And at the
drama
same time,
at
I
that
was
time
acting,
was very
because
powerful, wasn't
the
it,
only thing I
Jerome?
wanted to do on stage was act, nothing else. Not the director, not this or anything or playwright or anything. I just wanted to act. I just loved to get on stage and act. And it was after I got a job and I could stand on my own 2 feet that I really got into it, because I didn't have to depend on anyone. And I guess that's why I would even now teach free and things like that to the masses, because I know what happened. It was not that I was saying I was deprived, but it so happened. But at the same time, I was in the correct place at the correct time.
Correct time.
And from there, then I made a name as an announcer and as an actor, and I was taken to the private sector to advertise. And that brought forth my creative juices and everything, and as a strategist and all of that. So then I became
Jerome,
even a trainer in
before we leave that, Jerome, I wanted to say right place at the right time. SLBC in the 1970s. I remember when I was growing up, the drama, the radio drama, the quality of it. This even in the Sinhala, it was breathtaking.
Absolutely. I mean, that was sheer talent because we had only audio. There was no
Yes.
visual, and we had to create such imagery in the person's mind. It was theater of the mind. That's how I went.
So powerful, Jerome. And the genres, I remember ghost stories, I remember short stories being read out,
Right, I
and
know.
it was an art by itself. So no wonder, like, yes, in a way, it's a pity that
And
radio.
මොකද මේ radio dramas දෙක මොන රතන්න and what's the other
One
one?
Palace. One
Muan
Palace.
Palace. I mean, so wonderful. Still they
Yes.
would stand on their own.
I agree. And Jerome, we had, my father was also doing Tumpatrata towards the end of that time. Muan Palace, the whole family. I remember for some reason power cuts again. Could be JVP connected. In the dark, the whole family getting together to listen to Muan Palace. And Khadira, you don't forget them. I'm like, I still remember. And Mina and all that. So I do get a sense of what you're saying, because Radio Ceylon and Sri Lanka Broad SLBC was it was a bed of talent, and you obviously were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, so we all spawned out of that, and that helped us so much. I mean, and it helped me because at that time was when with my friends around like Jayant, Vijay Ratna and all these other people, right? For some, I had seen Pradel, and before that I had seen Marcel Marceau when he came down for the only time to Sri Lanka as a mime. And some other, I also liked mime, right? And I used to do mime in the announcers room at the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation in our little, like I think about 10 by 10 little room. And one day, and strangely enough, Grace Arya Vimal himself, and all those people, Lucian Bulat Sinhala, Sugatapala Silva, the entire lot of people were in the Sinhala service, and they were our technical assistants or operational assistants, because as announcers those days, we used to work with, the music used to be on Tatiwala, records. Right. And so they used to be on the other side on the control panel. We used to do the announcing, and they used to spin the records for us. And so, and even Douglas Ranasinghe, right, at that time, they were all at SLBC. Later, all these people got into, into the orchestras, and then it was Rona Veera Singer, then Amaradeva, and then our darling dear person, Premasiri Kemadas, and all that. So, and the thing is, because I used to do that, they used to come and speak to me, because they used to apparently peep through the little glass on the door of the announcer's room and used to see me perform. And that's how I got familiar with all the present day or recent, even some of them have passed on, Sinhala theatre people. So they knew me from the time I was a horrid 19-year-old little boy.
Who was doing mime for the fun of it inside a radio station.
Okay. Yes, inside a radio station. And they noticed, and then they used to come and speak to me on article or act and all that, and that time English theatre was nowhere, and Sinhala theatre was like, so up there. It's, I mean, and even Sinhala music, and I mean, it was amazing.
You were in the first production of Manasavila, right? I remember playing the violin and watching you be a fish.
Yeah, I mean, while all of you were playing, you and your cello, and I mean, that's why you met Pradeep, isn't it?
Yes. You were the Lulaya, right?
Huh?
What were you? No, you were not the Lulaya.
No.
Who were you?
No, I was the Magura, but not me, actually. What happened was, like about 3 weeks before the opening of Manasa Villa. You see, I had done choreography in 1984 for Vichita Gunaratna's Satyanganavi. That is Bertolt Brecht's Good Woman Shetswa. And Premasiri Kemadasa did the music. All right. And then when he was doing Manasa Villa, he remembered me. And he was 3 weeks away from opening night and nothing had been done with the choreography. So one morning, and I was at JWT at that time, near Police Park at that time, Maestro Kemadasa was there at the reception and he came and actually, අනේ මම වැඳලා කියන්න මගේ නාට්‍ය තව සුමාන 3කින් එවිට කොරියෝග්‍රැෆි ටිකක් කරන්න පොඩි කෑල්ලක් විතරයි තියෙන්නේ මේ මොහාන් සුදසිංහ මේ මගුරගේ චරිත කරනවා ඒක නිකන් මට ඕනේ නිකන් මයිකල් ජැක්සන් පාට් එකක් වගේ. So I said, because I was very fond of him, I knew about him and all that. I love this music. So I said, okay. And they were rehearsing at Vida Kenneman's place in Kollupitiya. Okay. So then I went one day and I went of an evening and I was absolutely enthralled by the music and the whole translation by Dr. Sunil Vijay Surivardhana. And there was Chapa Bulat Sinhala and all these people. In fact, now you must see all those people who were the lesser fish, I would say, in the villa, are now the lead people. That means Chapa is now singing in Vienna and all kinds of places.
And Indika Upamali,
and Harsha Bulat Sinhala, who was Harsha Bulat Sinhala, who was the Lul, who was the Andaya. What do you think? Andaya. Yes,
and the Tittaya, the little fish Tittaya, is now Indika Upamali. You know?
And Granville Rodrigo was the narrator after that, Jackson Anthony, all those people. So anyhow, I went and I said, Master, what is this? It's such beautiful music. Fish never go to sleep, and even if they go to sleep, the baral name. So I said, you can't do this. Right? I said, what is this? And I asked, what is the costume like? And then Vida Kenneman said, okay, this is how it is. I said, no, sequence. And I said, Master, this is not going to do. Your music has inspired me. I have not come here as a break dancer to teach someone like, a Michael Jackson move. I want to do the choreography. So he said, come on, let me see. And I started the choreography from the overture. Right. And it went on. And I don't think I've ever been so creative in that sense where choreography is concerned. Because this music just inspired me. And I used to do choreography. Then I used to go. See, the lovely thing about Sinhala theatre is most of the time they rehearse right through the day. Whereas in English or Western theatre, we rehearse in the evenings or in the weekends. So I did a bit on the Monday. The next Tuesday, I went in the late afternoon after I finished my work. And they had done that whole thing, they had perfected it. And so then I did the next bit and the next bit and the next bit. And in 5 or 6 days, I completed the choreography, which they had been trying to do in like 7 months. And then Mohan Sudhasingha was the Magura, and this Kaushalya Fernando was the Kanya. Sorry, right. And then what happened was the few shows went on, and then you were in the orchestra pit, and I
can't remember Kaushalya Fernando in Manasa Villa.
She was, yeah. The start.
At the start, she may have been, right?
Yes, and then after Tisula and Sunila used to sing from the orchestra pit. So I also used to join them because Master wanted a Western style operatic singer for the lower parts in the thing. So I knew the words and all that. I knew my choreography. And then one day after about 15 odd shows, right, I didn't go for the show on the Friday evening at the Lionel event. But the next day I said, okay, I will join you, because that they were touring for the first time. They were going to Matara. They were going to perform there on the Saturday and come back on the Sunday and perform in Gaul. So I said, okay, I'll meet you. And then we all got into the bus from the Lionel event. So I got in quite unwittingly. And I sat down. I anyhow noticed that Mohan Singh was not there. And so I thought, okay, maybe he must be joining us from somewhere else and all that. So we continued with all the guys in the back there singing baila and all kinds of nonsense like that. And suddenly remembering that we have to keep our voices because it's an opera. And suddenly somewhere in Ratbanana or somewhere, because those used to be right around the coast and it used to take like about 10 hours to get anywhere. Mr. Kemadasa comes to the back of the bus where all the boys and we were wondering whether he was going to come and dance baila with us. And he says, Jerome, podi ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. උදව්වක් කරන්න ඕනේ. I said, hey, මොකද? නෑ මොහාන් ඉන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයා මගුරාගේ චරිත කරන්න පුළුවන්. I said, I can hardly speak Sinhala properly. Just imagine singing and acting and dancing in a now famous opera, first opera in Sinhala, such complicated music and all that. Anyhow, okay, so I thought, okay, so I had to do it, no? So I said, okay, Hari Hari Makarana, and he rehearsed me. They were all laughing at my Sinhalese and my praise. Anyhow, we got to Matara. And then I was handed over the costume, which was dripping with sweat because Mohan is to perspire quite a lot. And then just put it into a bag and they came and gave this to me. And I got into this. I have never, ever felt so uncomfortable in a costume in my life because I'm very icky about things like this. Okay. And I think psychologically, I got a rash all over anyhow. So I performed at the 3 o'clock show and Matara those days, I don't know whether it's still the same. If they don't like a performance, they hoot you off the stage. Right. Anyway, I got through and then what happened was, although I had done the choreography, I had completely forgotten what it was supposed to be. So I went from one side, they didn't know what was happening. The other fish in the villa, they didn't know where to run because they didn't know where I would run next. And I took such a note. I started on the correct note, and then I took off. So much that Master Kemadasa, he just dropped his baton and he told the orchestra just to stop. And when I finished my number, the orchestra came in again. And then it went to goal. And the funny thing is, lot of people came and students started taking pictures of me with them. Those days, no selfies, no. So you had to stand in front of them. And they thought I was Mohan Sudhus. Anyhow. So then it went to goal and I was enjoying it quite a lot. And then, of course, we came to Colombo and then I did about 80 shows, I think. That's when you would have remembered me. And I remember all of you when I used to start my Maguro act. Mr. Kemadasa used to stop the whole orchestra, put the baton down and hold his arms and smile like that.
Jerome, that was such a production. I mean, at every level.
Absolutely.
It was amazing. Okay, I'm going to now backtrack. So you were familiar with the Sinhala crowd and you worked with the main people, right? That I'm going back to the beginning of workshop players. So now I realize why you were invited as a chief guest and why you came to St. Peter's like that. And then you started the workshop players. And we started the conversation on that. So the workshop players also used to go around the island.
Yes.
Were you training people or were you giving productions?
We didn't. We never took a production of ours out of Colombo because our productions by that time had become quite massive and where we needed all the facilities of the lionel went like the 14 flies and all kinds of things which you cannot get anywhere else, especially out of Colombo. Right now we have Nedon Pokona and all that, but then it's hardly theatre worthy to like I mean acoustics and everything is concerned. Anyway, so we used to go around doing workshops, and I remember I used to go with a few of them, and we used to actually even one of our first things in 1993 was when we went to Alawa, and we worked with the Dabadania Foundation, and we taught 121 students from the vicinity and the precincts of Alawa. We taught them English through drama. For 3 days we went on, and that spurred us on to do more workshops, to go and especially go to war-torn areas. I still remember I used to go and do workshops, even though they knew that I was at one time General Jerry de Silva's brother and all of that, So yeah, and I used to go to Batticlo. Then they used to come down to Colombo, and we used to work with. I used to get because we had also an arm of the Sinhala workshop days. We had just started a little bit. So they used to come down to Colombo. Like we started the Sinhala workshop days actually in 1999.
I
Because
actually hadn't known that, Jerome. I did not know it also had a Sinhala branch.
yeah, we had a Sinhala workshop days. We started in 1999 because at that time I was involved with Dharamsiri Bandaranaike's Trojan Kanta. I was doing the choreography for that. And then I met people like who amongst the guards, for instance, like Sampath Javir and all that, now who are famous actors, right? And Rasanthi Randal and all these people. And then they urged me to start a workshop for them. And then I remember in 1999 we did Lion King, and again in 2000 we did Lion King. But I also I collaborated with
Jerome, check your mic. Jerome, check your mic. Jerome. Oh, Jerome. Jerome, check your mic. Okay, I think. Jerome, you have to check your mic. You're muted.
Every 40 minutes this thing goes off. No? Sorry.
Okay. Jerome, you need to go back to the Lion King section. We could hear you talk, but we could see you talk, but not hear.
Yes. 1999, we did the Lion King, and in 2000, we repeated it again. We repeated it after a year. But in the meantime, as I said, I was doing the choreography for Trojan Kanta. And there are a lot of the younger people, right? In fact, I met some of them also, strangely, at that artists' parade last weekend at Golf Base. And now they're all married and they have children and all that. And I met them after the year 2000. Anyway, we started it and we had a 78 cast. We did Badala Vitanaga's translation of Macbeth. And all those people like Sampath Javir and Rasanthi Randal, that are famous actors. And even that, I mean, Rasanthi's daughter is also Sidindu, who got Best Actress a few years ago at the State Drama Festival. So all these people, so we started, that was when we started the Sinhala workshop days. And then we did the Macbeth, struck the set that October, and the next day we put the set on for the repeat of the Lion King. And so after that, I tried to do Les Miserables in Sinhala, I remember, but we didn't really we didn't get a proper translation because it was very difficult to, like, I mean, a few weeks ago, you remember the 100 voices, which became 450 or 500 voices we did. Do you hear the people sing? And some people actually told me, why don't you do this in Sinhala? And I'm still waiting. Again, I'm still waiting for a proper translation of that because I said, yeah, you can translate the words, but it has to fit the same music. The Les Miserables has been done in like over 100 languages all over the world. So why can't we do it in Sinhala? But it's very difficult, I guess. Like translating Shakespeare. I haven't still.
I have translated, Jerome, I have translated
still found a proper translation of Shakespeare into Sinhala.
True. No, I just wanted to tell you,
Jerome, the rhythm or the rhyme or the meter or the blank verse or any of those things.
Yeah. Jerome?
Yeah.
I have translated that song. It's in my channel. But as you say, it's almost impossible to fit the rhythm and the rhyme. You cannot. It's very difficult. And if you go on YouTube, you can hear 17 languages singing that song. and every language fits so beautifully, right?
Yes, but I don't
You
know why
can't.
you have done it. You translated it for the same original music, is it?
Yeah, no. I translated to teach English. So it's just a translation. I'll send you the copy, but
All right.
no way does it fit the rhythm or the rhyme. So you can't. It's very difficult. I tried to think of the music as well. It doesn't, somehow it's very difficult to fit.
Yeah,
Anyway,
because
that's
right.
by the way. Now, Jerome, so
Yeah.
obviously I'm going to rephrase my question because I originally started by saying normally English theatre doesn't mix with the politics of Sri Lanka. But your life story itself proved me wrong because you were saying, no, I was connected right from the beginning to now, right? So I really need to take away my first question and ask you, now, during the second JVP uprising, 88, 89, most of the protest that Sri Lankan civilians put forth was on Sinhala stage.
Yeah.
So if you take, Davala Bhishana or Marasada, whatever, they used allegory, symbolism, and translation to keep themselves safe from the censorship and the enormously dangerous atmosphere. I mean, we know Richard died, paid with his
Yes.
life for some of the things that happened during that time. So that the JVP in the Sinhala speaking world, the most of the frustration and the catharsis happened on the Sinhala stage, right? Do you remember anything parallel, Jerome, happening in the English stage during that time?
Yeah, during that time, actually, the English actually we're talking about 88 up to 90,
Yeah.
right? 1991 even maybe,
Hmm.
right? Because it went on. So there was nothing that happened actually in English theatre. There was hardly anything that happened because at that time, in any case, English theatre was not that big. Right, it had gone into like a bit of a hiatus, and there weren't any big productions coming on or anything. Right. In fact, it had like you could say died during that era. Okay, and of course, I kept myself going because I got involved with Sinhala
Sinhala.
theatre and also with my schools, right? Because I was directing drama in schools and things like that. So that's how I have this unbroken 52 years, whatever it is. But we didn't actually have anything, and because people were scared. You see, if we are talking about English theatre, the students or the actors or anything, nothing really happened because one thing is we couldn't get sponsors. No one was willing to sponsor anything. And so English
In
theatre took
which
a
year? In
real
which year
nosedive.
was Richard killed, Jerome?
1990.
Yes, so no wonder people were just
Yes.
hunted and didn't do anything.
Right, I know because like we had a really bad period at that time, and in fact, I mean, some of us who were in broadcasting also we had a tough time. You see, uh, we used to get death threats and all kinds of things at that time. So, and I still remember that. See, because I was a broadcaster, and after TV came in 1985, I still remember how I went in because I wanted to read news on TV as well. So I went for training and I got through and all kinds of things. And I read one bulletin, okay, on TV, live. And the very next day, I was removed from the panel because I was in advertising at the same time. And various advertising agencies went up to the commercial service director and said, look here, how can he be so significant and read news? He will influence our clients to come to him. I mean, that's very stupid. So they took me off the panel. Then in 1989, when all this was happening, I didn't know about death threats and all that. They gave me a call and said, can you come and read the news? Right. Strangely enough, or luckily enough, just because of my little ego, I said, why? When I
Jerome, again you're muted.
when all the
Jerome, you're again muted. You said why. After
No, I'm
that,
not.
you went silent. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. We couldn't hear you after you said why. Continue from there.
Now you can hear me.
Yeah.
I said what? After I said?
You said why. When they called you, your ego played up and
Yeah,
you said
right.
why. Yes.
Yes. I said, why now? I mean, why are you asking me now? I didn't realize that all these other people were refusing to read news because they were getting death threats. Okay, and you know, like in one of my plays which I've just written, I have some of those scenarios there. So yeah, that is like, that's the thing about it, you know. So
Jerome,
we were not really involved.
let me get to that. You said in one of the plays you have written. So have you put these experiences down of going through, you know, two insurrections, one as a very young person,
Yeah,
then
like
as an adult? What is
the
that
play
play?
the other play that's called Dakuna. It's again in Sinhala, and of course it can be in English also. So I wrote it because we involved a lot of Ibsen again, right? Ibsen's Pretenders, which is very much about the JVP sort of movement in 19th century or whatever, when it was 18 something or the other when it was written. And also League of Youth, which is again very, very JVP. And so we wrote that, we used those themes or that sort of scenario, but we brought in the JVP story, history, from tracing the history from the late 60s or the early 70s, and about their secret meetings and the clandestine meetings and all of that, to the present day or the 1989, 1991 era. And also, I mean, the tsunami, and because our play involves the beginning from Calamitis and that first recorded tsunami.
Jerome, again, I can't hear you. So you were talking about your drama, right? Yeah, now okay. We're talking about your new drama, the one you're writing.
Right.
Okay.
So then, yeah, right. So then, so we even talk about that the curse of the tsunami coming after so many months was because of the 40,000 youths who were killed during that time in 1989 or that time. You see, that was what they said, the curse of the tsunami, and that's why it hit in that area and things like that. So yeah, like I don't know. So like I mean, so and of course that play, I guess you might speak about it later because it's a different.
I
In
will.
fact, I'd like to read.
The most recent play that you put on is called Akuna, Jerome.
Yes,
And that's
yes.
the Sinhala play?
It was a trilingual play, but not totally trilingual. We had an English narrator also and a Tamil narrator, and but it was predominantly in Sinhala. I wrote it in English, like we brainstormed it in 1990, and then 1991 we wrote it. We brainstormed it, and then we translated it to Sinhala, and I wanted very modern music as well as traditional music coming in. And it was a political satire, actually. And to tell you the truth, everything that was done, we wrote it in 1991 and we performed it just about 2 months ago, right? And a lot of it, right, all the main names are not mentioned, a lot of it that is in the play is happening right now at the Aragalia and everything else.
Can you read something from that, Jerome?
Yes, I will read the English a little bit,
Yes.
and then I will give it to Lochana, who was a very much a part of the artists' protest parade, right? Because it's very short. I will read just the short version. And it says, lies, lies, lies. All we hear are lies. We live on lies. We thrive on lies. Our lives are lies. A king, a queen, a jester, a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, a mother, a father, a lover, a child, a servant, a murderer. But does a beggar lie at the traffic lights, outside your house and in your streets? A baby in arms, Mohini, by the devil possessed. Where does the devil dwell? In me, in us, in you. I'll get Lochana to read the Sinhala now.
I think you performed this at the artist parade, right?
Yes,
I remember. And Lochana was which character?
He was one of the chorus, right? But in the artist parade, of course, he was the one with the gun.
ඒක තමයි. ලෝචන ඔයා ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් මට කෙටියෙන් කියන්න ඔය ටික කියවන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා.
මම ලෝචන මම කවිස්ක ලෝචන මම මේ ජෙරම් එක්ක සම්බන්ධ වෙලා දැන් අවුරුදු දෙකක් විතර වෙනවා වර්ක්ෂොප් එකකනේ
තාම පොඩ්ඩක් මෙහාට වෙන්න ලෝචන හරි
ආකනයි ලියන එක ගැනයි ඔක්කොම
මම පේන්ටිං කරනවා ඒ අමතර ඩ්‍රාමා ඇක්ටිං ක්‍රියේටිව් රයිටිං වගේ පොඩ්ඩක් ඒක කරන්න බලනවා
ප්‍රොමෝෂන්ස් එන්න
ප්‍රොමෝෂන්
අපි කවුරුත් ක්‍රියේටිව් රයිටිං එක කවුරුත් කරන්න බලනවනේ ලෝචන කවුරුත් කරනවා කියන තරම් කොන්ෆිඩන්ස් එකක් නැහැ මමත් කරන්න බලනවා
ක්‍රියේටිව් රයිටිං
හොඳයි ඔයා උපාධියක් කරනවද ඒක කැම්පස් ගියේ නැද්ද
නෑ මම කැම්පස් මට තාම 19
හිතා ගන්න බෑ කැම්පස් යන්න දෙන්නේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලේ යන්න ඕනේද ඕනේ නැද්ද එළියෙන් ඉගෙන ගන්නවද
නෑ මම නිකන් ඩ්‍රාමා
හොඳයි ඕකේ මොකද මේ යා කියවලා බලමු ඕක
මුසා ප්‍රෝඩා වංචා දෙසාවන් පීරි ඉතිරිලා දිවි ගෙවන්නේ මුස්සාවේ අප උපන්නේ මුස්සාවේ අප උපන්නේ මුස්සාවේ රජිකු රජිනා බෙදෙකු කවටෙකු නීති වේදී විනිසුරුවෙකු මවක පියකු පෙම්වතෙකු දරුවෙකු මෙහෙකරුවෙකු මිනිමරුවෙකු පාට එලිකම් ළඟ හිඟන්නන් මුස්සාවකද ඔබ නිවසෙන් පිටතට වීතිය යන එන තැන ඇකෙන් බිලින්දෙකු දරන හතක් ඇත සුදු ඇඳ මොහිනි යක්ෂා වේශවේ යක්ෂයා සිටියේ කොහෙද මා තුල අප තුල ඔබ තුල
මට මතකයි ලෝචන අර ගලේ වෙලාවේ ඔබ තුල කියනකොට ඔය ඔක්කොම ඇඟිල්ලක් දික් කරා අපි වෙතට අප ඊතර හිටන් හිටපු අයට ඒක ඉතාම බලවත් මූවමන්ට් එකක් වුණා ඒක අමතක වෙන්නේ නැහැ ඔක්කොම එකවර අපිට ඇඟිල්ලක් දික් කරාම හොඳයි මම ඔයාලට ගොඩක් සුබ පතනවා යන්න ඉන්න ගමන ගැන තරුණෙක් කෙනෙක් මෙතරම් කැපවීමකින් ඩ්‍රාමා කරනවා කියන එක අහන්නත් සතුටුයි හරි thank you Lochana all right okay so Akunama stage just one so far Gerald
yeah we had 5 shows at the Lion event
right
yeah so we had 5 shows at the Lion event unfortunately at that time this Omicron was still raging a bit so like you know there had to be social distancing and things like that and that was the beginning of the fuel crisis right so we had problems about people actually wanting to come and see the show not knowing whether they would have the show because of generator power and all kinds of things so our audience is not as great as we thought we would because one thing was the scare of the COVID-19 because it was the Omicron variant was at that time quite strong, you know, and spreading a lot.
I know, Jerome. For example, I did not come because my parents are living with me.
Yes.
To be careful, even I wasn't going for many shows as well, if I could avoid it.
Yeah, so it didn't become as, we thought it would become quite popular because it was a very, like, I mean, very soon I'll be getting the video. And again, we had like 70 casts. And so, yeah, so like, so that's what I'm saying. But so like actually, so this was actually the Lionel went workshop theirs because in 2019, June 1st, I spoke to the Lionel went because some of their staff also went to our theatre foundation and they said, Jerome sir, workshop. So then I spoke to the Lionel went and to the trustees and I said, you know, we must do something like this because the Amma Jagoda in those days had this Kala Kendra here, Lionel went Kala Kendra, and they used to do drama. And so we put a notice in the papers and I appeared on some TV program and I'm happy to mention this. And we had about 190 to 200 people who registered on the first day. And that more or less, there were even at the end, together with cast and crew, we had about 80 people. Right. So, which is all the other Sinhala directors and producers came and asked me, how do you harness so many people and so much of talent? In fact, it was totally new talent. Right. And now there are other theater groups who are trying to start theater companies. One of them, I think, is also the chairman of which is Peter de Almeida. And Anand the drama people are all involved in that. And they want this entire cast of Akuna to come to it and join it, so that these people have been noticed. And because 1 week later, we did a festival of seven of their short plays, which they wrote, which they directed, which they lit, and all of that, design and everything, which was again very successful, so that they have been noticed by the people who came. And
It's amazing, Jerome, and I always feel
continue.
because I have kids and I've seen young children, to have people like you and Peter and now Ruanti and Tracy, it's such a good thing when you have so much talent going out of the country. There are some of you who stick around and make sure that it's passed down, so that one day Lochana and they will also be mentors, because all the names you mentioned, Jehan, Ruanti, they themselves are mentors now. So thank goodness that you guys are here, because as a Sri Lankan, every time I see good people leave, it breaks my heart, because when you guys go, who is going to train the younger, the younger generation? I'm so glad to see that. Jerome, can we come into the play that you are doing now, which you said is Dakuna, playing upon the Akuna? What is that about?
Well, it is very interesting in that there are, I could say, 4 parallel themes that go on, where we start with the whole Kalanitis story, and then we trace it back, and then we bring in the parallels, because I'm using Ibsen's Pretenders, so, and League of Youth, and also Master Builder, right? And so we bring it, it's like a rehearsal process, but we go into the different scenarios, so that I think I should read a few pages of it.
Okay, before you do that, Jerome, so this is already in rehearsal?
No, not yet. Not yet, because we took a bit of a heavy beating where finances were concerned with Akuna. So we have to, and now there is no sponsorship coming up, and I don't know whether we'll have anything for the rest of this year.
Jerome, I think people are more worried about food right now. So
exactly.
all the artists are having it really. Can I first ask Malit who he is? Malit, දැන් ඔයාගේ මෙතන සහභාගීත්වය මොකක්ද? ඔයා drama Jerome එක ඉගෙන ගන්න එක්කෙනෙක්ද?
ඔව් මම මලිත්. එතකොට මම මේ වෙද්දී කැලණි විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ සිනමා හා රූපවාහිනී ඩිප්ලෝමා අපේක්ෂකයෙක් විදිහට වැඩ කරනවා. ඒ අතරේ ජෙරම් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා ආර්ට් ලෝකේ පුංචි දෙයක් කරගෙන ඉන්නවා.
ගොඩක් හොඳයි. සන්තෝෂය අඳුන ගන්න ලැබුණාට දැන් ඔයා සිංහලෙන් කියන ජෙරම් ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් කියවන එකනේ. Right, Jerome. Let's go ahead. Give us a little context of what you are going to read first.
Yeah, so like this is the beginning of the play, right? Of it's called Dakuna. Is it not the same today? That's what you're talking about. And again, it evolved from a brainstorming by the Lionel Bent workshop there. So it is always our total effort. And so it starts with where, I mean, the ensemble, they're like at any other rehearsal, right? And then from there, they are just dressed in black leotards and black tights, like you saw us perform in the artist parade as well. And even Akuna was like that, with just a piece of cloth or whatever it is to suggest a costume. And then the ensemble are in rehearsal costume, and this is what they say. Of course, the Sinhala one is more accurate because we brought in more historically correct facts. But I'll just read you the English one. It is not historically correct, but it's in the Sinhala one, it's fine. So I'll read the English one first. In the province of Maya, over 200 years before Christ, ruled a King Kalanithissa by name. The province of Maya thrived as it does today, part of the modern metropolis. His beautiful wife, religious in her ways, was close to an erudite monk who instructed her in the path to nirvana, the belief, the philosophy, the way to eternal bliss. But prying jealous eyes reported to the king otherwise, and like all rulers governed by ego, a bad jealousy caused this erudite monk to be killed, scalded in a cauldron of boiling oil. The people mourned, the gods were angered. The power of the oceans unleashed, wave after wave of tidal devastation swept over the province of Maya. Disaster unforetold, dreadful to behold. Thwart it we must, but how? The sages consulted a human sacrifice, a maiden of royal blood as an offering to the swelling tides. The king's beautiful daughter, overhearing, gives herself up to the tempest on a boat on the turbulent seas to perish. The waves subside, the province rescued, now back to thriving magnitude.
හිත උපතට 200 වස් පෙර මායාපුරේ කැලණි තිස්ස නම් රජෙකු රජකම් කළේ. එදත් අද වගේම මායාපුරේ සඵල වී බැබළුණා රටේ අග නුවර. රජුගේ සොයුරු කඩවසම් රජින සිද්ධන කළ ආලකම්. රජුට ඉඟි කළ මේ රහස්කම් සොයුර උත්තිය පලා යනු සැනින්. සොයුර පැන ගොස් මතකින් කලක් ගෙවුණි. මහන වෙස්ගෙන ඔහු සොරෙකු අත ලියමන. රජුගේ අතට මහ වුණා හොර මගඩි. සොරාගේ හිස ගසා අනියම් පෙමට අනුග්‍රහ කෙරුවා කියා. රජු නායක රහත් හිමි සැක කළා. මරන්නට රහත් නම අනග කුණු තෙල් කටාරමක ගිල්වා. වෙලපුණා වැසියන් උදහස් වුණා දෙවියන්. නිදහස් වනු සමුදුරෙන් බලෙන් නැගියා රැලි පිට රැලෙන්. පිස දැමුවා මායාපුර රටෙන්. විනාශයකි පෙර නොවිදි. මෙය නැවැත්විය යුතුමයි. එහෙත් ඒ කෙලෙසදයි. පඬිවරුන් පැවසුවයි. මිනිස් බිල්ලක් ඇවැස්සියයි. කුළුඳුල් රජලේ පමණක් සමුදුරට පුදන්නේ. රජුගේ දූ කුමාර ඉදිරිපත් වුණේ මේ කනවැකි. රන්නොරු කඳේ නැගිය වියරු රැලි දෙස පිට වුණි. රුදුරු රාරු මුදු වුණි. විනාශෙන් මායාපුර ගැලවුණි. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
That's a good translation, Jerome, which got the
Yes.
rhythm and all that. Who did the translation?
See, like we have, like I write in English and then we get it translated. This is the same guy who did, who assistant directed me and who's my assistant at the workshop. There's his assistant director as well.
Thank you. That
if
was very well read. Thank you, Malik. Yeah.
so
What's his
that
name,
is,
Jerome?
So
What is
that
his
is,
name?
his name is Mahesh Tusita.
It's very well
Mahesh
done.
Tusita.
The way Malik
Yeah,
read it,
because
the
he's
rhythm
one
was
also who
very good.
translated. Yes, I got them. He came down today from Imaduwa. He came so many hours in the train from Gaul
It's
because of what we are meeting today and what we are going to do from tomorrow at Taragalaya.
yes. How come, Jerome, that your troop and you are so I mean, it's heartening to see. I saw you and I hope to share some photographs. I already have it in my phone. I should screen share. Screen share is a bit complicated, so I tend not to do that. Jerome, why do you feel the
Right.
need to represent yourself so much in this particular Aragalaya?
What do I see in this Aragalaya?
No,
Yes, what I see is
why do you
at the
feel
moment,
no?
at the
not-
moment, what I'm seeing is
Jerome, my question was, why do you feel that you should represent yourself like so fully and with such commitment in this particular Aragalaya? That's a question.
Yeah, there was a bit of a lag on this thing, and I couldn't really get you in one line. Can you
Yeah.
repeat the question, please?
Okay.
Because the signals are bad here.
My question, Jerome, why do you
Yeah.
feel it important to represent yourself and your art and your people, your troupe in this particular Aragalaya? What is your investment in this?
See, the thing is, because for one thing is I work with a lot of young people and I understand their problems. I mean, all the workshop players, the Sinhala workshop players, Lionel workshop players, the Lionel Stars workshop players. I work with a lot of young people, and especially amongst my Sinhala troupe. I mean, they are unemployed, they are this, they have nothing. They have some of them who have got university degrees, don't have jobs. And and now in addition to all of that, you see, and a lot of them, some of them are teachers. A lot of these people come from agrarian societies. Their parents are farmers, right? And all these people in my troop are going through absolute hell. I mean, even their crops have failed and everything. That's why I thought, as the Lionel Vet workshop players, because we had a huge number of people, right? I said, let's get together and with the English workshop players and all that and see and do something for the future. I mean, I keep telling them, I mean, in the heat of the moment and the mass hysteria of what's happening at GGG, at Goldface, and the shouting of vulgar slogans and this, that, and the other. I keep telling them, I mean, well and good, yes, let's try to topple the government, but where do we go from there? Who is going to come over? Because recently on a TV interview on Focus on Sri Lanka or whatever it is, I was interviewed because I had been at the first that Do You Hear the People Sing the 100 Voices protest thing. And they asked me with three economists in the studio. I was on Zoom as usual. Asked me why was I there? And then I said, look here, because I'm not asking for, reshuffling. And that was the very day that there was a reshuffle of the cabinet. And I said, it's the same old pack of cards that is being reshuffled and reshuffled and reshuffled. And as far as I'm concerned, with all the knavery that has been going on over the years, they're all black cards. You see? And I said, so how do we go from here? Even if this government is toppled, the next lot will come and they'll all be the same because they're the same people. Right. So we not as me as young people, but me as a spokesman for young people and who is involved with young people all the time who are going through these financial difficulties and whose parents have gone through hell because of this Rasane business. You see, and stranger the day I was talking about it, and because of this Aragale and the noise that we have made at Goldface, the dear person who brought in this whole thing and was very adamant about it and in a very dictatorship way of doing things, actually rescinded his whole decision and brought back
And Jerome,
fertilizer on that very day.
the weird thing is it's all too late. What's the point of
It's
going,
true.
sorry, we made a mistake, when it's too late?
Yeah, that's true. Now, for instance, I'll tell you another thing. I'll just let you in on a thing. These guys, a lot of them are at Taragalaya, and I keep scolding them. I said, what the devil are you? You're there. What are you doing? Just shouting slogans. No, let's do something constructive about this because it is for you, just not to topple the government. What's the big idea? Because in any case, we need that money to come back, if at all, if we have to get out of this terrible rut. Okay. So, I keep telling them these things. And actually, when I was trying to harness the forces again to do something from tomorrow at GGG, at Goldface, I was told by one lot who were in a boarding house here that the other lot had gone. Now, just listen to this, had gone to help their fathers and their families with the Aswanda. right? To help them because they were harvesting the paddy fields. And the reason why they went was because මේගොල්ලන් අපේ බෝඩිමේ හාල් තිබුණ නැති නිසා. ඉතින් අපි හිතුණා අපි එතන ගිහලා උදව් කරලා හාල් ටිකක් අරන් එන්නම් අපිට උයලා කන්න. So can you imagine? You know, these are the people. So that is why I decided to join this whole thing, because of these young people whom I have first-hand experience with. Right, during Akuna, they were all in my house, in my tiny little house, sleeping on each other. Right, but we ate and drank nicely and we were very happy. Right, but this is the problem they're facing.
I think, Jerome, if the rulers or the decision makers actually meet the people they are making, they are making these people go through, if they realize the kind of human beings who are suffering and have contact like you do, maybe they wouldn't be this deaf and dumb, and think
that's
they are
right.
just troublemakers. Not really. They are trying to say this is impossible for us now. But it's
Yeah.
so, Jerome, I think I will end it here because we've spoken to some extent. And the reason I asked you here was to ask why the English theatre is so involved in this. And your answer showed me, no, you always were. That the
Yes.
two worlds were never that separate for you. In fact, I guess Richard's death is proof enough that it hadn't been the case. And the shutting down of Sinhala theatre was largely avoided by the fact that allegory, symbolism, and clear use of translation to talk about local context also helped it. So I wish you all the best with Dakuna. How long do you have hopes of getting that? If you find sponsorship, Jerome, of getting that in?
Well, it's a very controversial play, right? It's extremely controversial because I said there is the ancient that combines with the parallelism of the JVP problem, the LTTE problem, plus our executive and the cohorts, right? And it goes through the whole thing. So, but I guess we will be able to perform it. Madhubhashi, before you just cut me off, can I read a little bit of the script so that you will know
Please
that
do.
at least now we are getting the JVP involved?
Please
Okay.
do. Yes.
Right. Okay. Like, for instance, it says, now after that opening number, the sudden change to working lights and all settle down to discuss the script. And the director says, all very well, but where do we go from here? And then one actor says, sir, could you not bring realism and relevance relating the past to our present? And another actress says, like the play I read the other day, The Pretenders. And the director says, by Henry Gibson. Brilliant. Okay. And then a young girl comes in and says, suddenly she enters this workshop atmosphere and says, sir, please excuse me, I wish to join your troupe. The director says, well, I don't know if we have enough room for you. Then another actress says, sir, Supulvi, and now this is absolute factor. This is based on absolute fact. Supulvi has her exams coming up and has left the troupe temporarily. The director says, what's your name, girl? I am Sevandi, sir, from Anuradhapura. All right, take 5, he tells everyone. Then she stays and says, he says, you seem familiar. Now this is this part is based on Ibsen's Master Builder, okay? He says, you seem familiar. 10 years ago, sir, I was a girl of 13. You and your troupe came to Anuradhapura with your massive production of Manutapya, right? Les Miserables. And the director said, yes, it was a huge hit, especially among the young audience. Yes, says the girl, your production had the longest standing ovation any production had ever got in our hometown. Yes, and I was garlanded by a young schoolgirl dressed in white. Yes, sir, what a lovely evening. So you were there. It was I, sir, who garlanded you, right? And then the actresses return after their break, and actress 2 says, and history did repeat itself in December 2004, the Asian Boxing Day tsunami. A curse that befell our island because of the heinous murder of 60,000, sorry, I got the number wrong last time, 60,000 youths in an uprising in 1989. And then another actress says, my father was burned alive on a tire pyre on the street where we lived. And another little boy says, my grandfather's charred body, they say, came floating in the river, then turned bloody, that flows through our village. Then the co-author comes up and says, my dear friend, the brilliant genius, actor, writer, poet, author, and journalist, was found 2 days after abduction with scars of torture, burns, and bullet wounds, washed ashore on a beach miles away from his home. His grieving mother identified the body. His father too. Both brilliant people, now dead, grief overcoming them. My friends and I still grieve. What a loss to the country, the world. That was 1990. Then another person says, another co-author, brilliant broadcasters, lyricists, heads of electronic media stations, newscasters, playwrights fled the country to Norway, Sweden. So did journalists. And the other person, a young reactionary type, says, is it not the same today? Then you hear voices in the dark and everybody puts on masks, okay? Shh, don't look, be deaf, be blind. Where are they? Missing without a trace. You hear sounds of scuffles, screams, a van door opening, shutting, van speeding off, gunshot, silence. You would have realized who I was talking about there. And then we have 2, 3 other scenarios that come in about what happened at that time. Brilliant poets, writers, broadcasters. So, I mean, that's what we are dealing with now. I said it goes back, I guess. And of course, in the rest of the play, we go back to even 1969, 70, where the whole JVP began. We go back to the early 80s, where the LTT began. And we bring in the Lara and the Gotagogama thing and all of that. So all these are moving parallel to each other.
You're hoping to have this in English and Sinhala and Tamil or just English?
No. It's in Sinhala, mainly in Sinhala. So most of it is translated. Most of it is translated now. So we are going through it again.
Right. I guess I can only hope for a day, we can see it, Jerome, but at the rate the country is suffering with bare essentials not being available, medicine and food. Let's first hope those get sorted out, and then there's a time for artists. And it heartens me to see that despite everything, you're still writing, you're producing, you're training young children, young men and women. That is where the hope is.
Tomorrow we are meeting at the Atharamadiyawa grounds, right? And we are going to, what I'm saying is, like, forget about all of these things. Let's pick our brains as to how we can get out of this rut, out of this economic mess, because it is your future that we have to look at, right? What can we do? What are the solutions that we can come up with? Because these people all come from the villages where they have, as I said, an agrarian, agricultural society. So, I mean, we can start from the roots itself and come out, and we are going to do it in forum theatre style, so that our audience also will then get involved with us, and they'll come up with because they have all come from the villages here.
Jerome, is forum theatre like the theatre of the oppressed? Where you get
it is definitely. It's Augusta Boyle's theatre of the oppressed, and we are the oppressed now. That's why I said it will be so relevant. And right, let's do it. So now we are going to even tonight we'll be brainstorming on some themes, and tomorrow we will get together and we look at, like, okay, forget about the dirty slogans and this, that, and the other, and all the insults and all that. Let's see how can we get out of this national debt. How can we do this? How can we do that? And how can we prevent, when the money is given by the IMF, when India gives us so many billions of dollars, when all this, will it be channeled in the correct way? Right, because always, okay, it comes from the first party to the second party contracts it to the third party to the fourth party with commissions down the line. Okay, so now we want to show them we are aware about what's happening. So do it this way. And that's what we're going to discuss in forum theatre and perform.
I wish you all the best, Jerome, and you, your young people, Malit and Rolochan and all those people, because there is hope there. And honestly, I think, Jerome, speaking just for myself, they have more brains and hope and courage than I ever had. So that respect to them, because we've let so many things slide without question. And we got into this situation, and it's just heartening to see that these young people are saying enough. So let me wish you luck, and let me wish you everything good, Jerome. Thank you for your time, for coming. Can I see Malit and Lochaner again to me to thank them? Are they still there? They're going to work throughout the night, no?
Yeah, they're on their phone to their girlfriends. They're on their phone, they're
Tell your
chatting with their
girlfriends to watch
girlfriends.
this. Thank you, both of you, Lochana, Malit. Thank you. I hope I'll see you all perform soon. When things are better, I'll come and see you all when you perform Akuna, Dakuna, anything. So, Jerome, three of you, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to practice, the time to read it out for us. And good luck for tomorrow. And thank you for being part of my channel and talking to me. I'll bid you all three good night then.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. It was a
Okay.
privilege. Thank you so much.
Right.